Monty Alexander. We are very, very happy to welcome you to the Padova Jazz Festival and to our radio broadcast, Il Jazzofono, that will broadcast this interview. Welcome.
Thank you for your welcome. I'm very glad to be here in this great city to bring some music.
There have been many attempts to hybridize jazz and Afro-Cuban music, but relatively few to bring the rhythms of reggae and ska into a jazz contest. And you did it, exploiting the Caribbean backbeats to a jazz idiom, something for which your name will always be remembered in the history of jazz. Do you think it is an appropriate recognition?
Well, first of all, it's nice to be recognized for anything positive. And for me, when I play the rhythms of the place I grew up with, it's like you growing up in Padova. I assume you're from Padova.
Yes.
It's a part of your life. So as important it is for me to genuflect to the altar of Charlie Parker and Duke Ellington and Art Tatum, it's equally important for me to regard and love my childhood, my upbringing. And as a kid, I had a very, very fortunate, diverse experience with music of all kinds, many kinds. All of them was as meaningful as the other. I didn't say this is better, that's better, I love my mother the same way I love my mother. I heard somebody say that, they're equal, you know? So rhythm and blues music was important, calypso music was important, cowboy songs were important, Christmas songs when Bing Crosby sang them were important, Louis Armstrong was important, all these artists were one wonderful world, and when I make music I just bring them together. And the thing is, in the jazz community, a lot of the incredible royalty of music that I had the opportunity to be on the bandstand with and be a part of it, those guys died, a lot of them. Goodbye, gone to heaven, I hope, you know. So I was left with a sense of loneliness. I'm lonely, I don't know, I know all these other guys my age going to meet the young guys, and I met some, hey, Mr. Alexander, but I was more drawn to my roots, Jamaica. Yes, not so much reggae, but it's the spirit of Jamaica, so that when I play a rhythm from Jamaica, I go back home, and home is a nice place. So that's why I started to go home in the music, and people probably said, when I'm Monty Alexander, I'm not playing all those notes anymore. I played special notes, the notes that like we talk when we sing, you know? Yes. So that's a long answer for your very sensible question.
Thank you, I appreciate it. You finally also received a nomination for a Grammy Award in the year 2011 with a live album, Harlem Kingston Express. And now there is a new album, Warika Hail, Rasta Monk Vibrations. Only you had the authority to try your hand at something like this. How did you get the idea to do it?
Just a vibration, a vision, mystical, magical, because we all that love this music respect icons of jazz, so-called jazz. And Thelonious was one of them. And I always thought this man was so unique, so on every little note he played on the piano, the way he spoke, the way he walked, it was like incredible and light-hearted and humorous, and I always had a reaction. And it made me think of him for no explainable reason, like when I first saw the Rastafarians of Jamaica. When I was about 7, 8 years old, I used to see the Rastamen, which is the cornerstone of a religion, Bob Marley being one of the people that felt affected by this philosophy. And I used to see them, I used to hear the drum beats from the hill right next to my house. Right next to the house was a road going up to Warika Hill. That was the hill behind my house. So it was a personal experience, and as a young man, you get impressions of things. And once I was playing a concert in Germany, and at the end of the concert I said, I want to do this. I thought of Thelonious and the way his tunes had such an island flavor. You see, he grew up in a New York community that was all West Indians, almost all. People from Barbados, Trinidad, Jamaica, most of the English islands. So he grew up, when he would play some of those tunes, I could feel the calypso and the rhythm, you know? And I said, this is a nice thing to do, to introduce Thelonious to Jamaica more in this time, but from a messenger, Monty. And that's what was behind it. And I called my troops. I said, let's go, we're gonna go in the studio and we're gonna play whatever, all those tunes, and tunes make you smile. And that's Warwick Hill. It's Thelonious Rasta Monk vibration. That's what that is.
Thank you. You were born in Kingston, Jamaica in 1944 and moved in Miami in 1961,
right.
Long before the great success of reggae music, which began more than 10 years later. What was the real impact that reggae has had in your musical career?
It wasn't that reggae itself. First of all, Jamaica is my upbringing. A lot of things about my life as a young boy are strong, very strong, right? I came to America in 1961 through a family decision not to go to study music, because I never studied music. I never went to music school. I had a piano teacher for a couple, and she hit me on my knuckle, and I said, I stopped, no more. But I was already playing boogie woogie, I was playing songs. I go over from the cinema and make the music, kind of the music I heard on the screen, you know. But Jamaica, the first music from Jamaica was what we called mento, calypso, the old-time calypso music. A lot of the songs that Harry Belafonte recorded, but diluted to make it more digestible for the American public. You know, you sing, "This is my island in the sun." These island folk songs. So when I was in school, I would sneak out of the school to go to the recording studio. I was 14, to play with the musicians. And we played rhythm and blues, we played ska, which is rhythm and blues, but Jamaica style. And then later on, the Rastafarian philosophy was the beginning of reggae. And around that time is when I went to Miami and just found myself among the musicians. It was all magic. No plans. I didn't go to a university. And the greatest school was being around my musicians, the older guys that said, "Monty, we like you, come hang out with us." And I was very fortunate because there was a lot of drugs. And I remembered my mother said to me, "If I ever hear you took a drug, I'm gonna punch you." I said, "No." And I remember things like that, and I never got caught up in that. But that was Miami, 1961, 62. And then I met Mr. Frank Sinatra. And that's how I got to New York. He heard me play and recommended me for a job. Anyhow, long story. But the reggae thing, Jamaica thing, Calypso thing, the Trinidad thing was part of my life. Yeah.
Okay. You were married with the Italian jazz singer Caterina Zapponi. How much of Italian has brought Caterina into your life?
Wow, that's a great question. How much Caterina brought me to Italian?
Yeah.
Because I remember meeting her mother and father. Her mother is a famous film scriptwriter. He wrote the scripts for Federico Fellini, Bernardino Zapponi.
Yeah.
You know, so I remember going there. It's really almost 25 years now, and I sat at the little table, the dining table, and they put the Chianti in the little regular glass, not the fancy glass, the Chianti, and her mother made the great pasta and the little dishes, and I fell in love with Italy. But in America, the American Italians are different breed.
Yeah.
And I was playing at Gillies, and they were all our Italian American guys because of Sinatra. They come there. The wise guys, we call them, tough guys. And they were tough guys, you know, and they'd say, "Hey, Monty, keep swinging." And I'd be playing, and Sinatra sitting right over there and say, "Yeah, Monty, keep swinging." So Jamaica, America.
Okay. More than 75 albums in your name, in more than 50 years in music. Is there one of your recording, maybe one that you consider a little underrated, but that you are really proud of and you would like to mention?
Well, everyone I don't like. I mean, for many reasons, I don't like that. But then there's something you like about each one too. So I would say there are 2 or 3 records that I really love that I had done. And of course, the camaraderie of my friendship with Ray Brown was very important. Ray was a large, big figure in life, a very large personality, and his notes, boom, was life itself. It's like the heart beating. And I played with Ray and Herb Ellis, a lot with Milt Jackson, made records with him. But I made my own albums, and among them, there's a record I really loved it because the 2 men under the record was a drummer named Frank Gant. It was live in Tokyo. It's in Tokyo, and Pablo for Norman Granz. So I have sentimental reasons a lot with some of the music, you know. A record I did called Echoes of Gillies, which is playing Sinatra's songs. And he wrote me a letter. I sent the CD to Sinatra, and he wrote me back a letter saying, I like that record a lot, blah, blah. So I have personal favorites, but I guess my most favorite record is the one I just did, Warwick Hill.
Thank you. Some of your most popular records are live albums. Live in Tokyo, Monty Alexander, and Harlem Kingston Express, of course. Is it due to chance, or do you think there is something that makes your live performances always special? Because, as we all know, it is a special experience to attend your concert.
Thank you very much. I'm saying to you that every time you play, it's special. It's supposed to be special. I dedicate myself to finding special because it's your attitude when you make your music, and it's always increased when I feel a warm audience, a welcomed audience. And sometimes you see people sitting there very serious, and then we make them warm. You know, welcome, say, we're here to have a nice time. I consider myself a messenger of goodwill to give people pleasure. I'm not to impress you how good I am. No, I just want to bring joy. And that's what I saw when I saw Louis Armstrong. I saw him, I was 7, 8 years old.
Wow.
And this man came on the stage and the place lit up like it was a Christmas day, you know? So the audience is the 4th member of the trio. You understand?
Yeah.
You have 3 guys, they become the 4th member because you feel them, you know, and you're not compromising, but you think of them. And when you're in a studio, you're about, I must be perfect. And the microphone is the audience, and that's good.
Yeah.
But a microphone is a thing, it's not a heartbeat.
Thank you, very, very interesting. Between the 60s and the 70s, you have played with some of the greatest jazz musicians, Milt Jackson, Dizzy Gillespie, Ray Brown, Benny Golson, Quincy Jones. Today you are a jazz living legend. Is there a musician that you have really admired and loved that you haven't had a chance to play with, but that you would have loved to?
Well, living musicians, and that's a very important point because most of the musicians I've admired to the extent that I didn't necessarily want to play with them, but just be in their presence, because they were like people that brought magic in their lives, where most of them have died, you know. One man that is still alive, and I spoke to him this morning, was my friend Sonny Rollins.
Wow.
Was one of them. I spoke to Sonny this morning. We have a warm friendship. I spoke to him, see how he is and so on.
How is he?
He's doing well. He had a very difficult situation with his respiratory thing, and he stopped playing. So, but he's happy. He's a very peaceful, beautiful spirit, Sonny. As far as greatness in music, Ahmad Jamal. He is a unique man. He's not a part of a clique or a group. He is his own person, devout spiritual man. He is a dedicated Muslim and a very beautiful human being. I met him in the 60s and he was kind to me. So he's one of the people I admire for being so much integrity. And every note you play, he plays, is filled with that integrity and inspiring. So other than Duke Ellington and Art Tatum, Mr. Jamal, Oscar Peterson was a hero for me. I got to know him quite well. But these days, I'm not trying to be the great piano player. I'm here to bring a message of goodwill and upliftment. And I'm happy to be here with you.
Thank you very much. Our great pleasure. Just two more little questions. It is a question about Monk, whose shadow is positively covering this edition of the Padova Jazz Festival. He's kind of everywhere. Kenny Barron talked about his experience with the group Sphere. Vijay Iyer mentioned him as his greatest inspiration, and you have dedicated your new album to his music. Do you think he is the most influential piano player of the history of jazz?
I would say that Thelonious was so. This is the first time a guy in Jamaica said, "You ever hear about Monk?" The word he said, he was different. Different. He was so different that you can't put him in a box. You know?
Yes.
Not only that, he was a funny guy, make you laugh, right? And everything he did was completely his own. But he was inspired by Duke Ellington and other piano players, you know? And as the years came by, and of course you may know that he suffered from mental concerns. And as the years went by, his uniqueness was also close to an illness, see?
Yes.
So we can't say, oh, Monk was both. No, he's also had an illness that was digressing,
yeah.
you know? But his what he heard was his own world, And I think everybody's looking for individuality. And Monk inspires you to be individual, I think, mainly.
That's a great concept.
I think so.
Yes, thank you. And the very last question comes from Maria Grazia, a member of a 6,000 jazz fan Facebook group, All That Jazz. She would like to ask you if there is any pianist of your own Caribbean origin who inspire you, and particularly she mentioned people like Omar Souza, Roberto Fonseca, Gonzalo Rubalcaba.
First of all, those three names, these are great musicians, great pianists, right? But I am more aware of some of the previous musicians. I would say the ones that I know, because I don't go far out of my way to discover the new great people, right? I had such personal admiration with Randy Weston, who has Jamaican heritage as well. He played the piano like a big eagle flying over the land. He made music to make you breathe, you know. This is African heritage, right? The other one that's a great musician, great pianist is Cubano Chucho Valdez. And the rest of them are awesome, great. But for me, those two men, and they were big guys.
Yeah.
And I used to play piano concerts with Randy. So there was me like this, and there was Randy like that. It was lovely. So those two men are the ones I know. Michel Camilo, he's excellent.
Yes.
Very classical, I admire
yes,
him.
Yes. Thank you very much. It was a very interesting interview. You were very, very kind. It was a great pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Same
Thank
here.
you.
Pleasure. Absolutely.